You think you want emotional control because you are tired of being pulled around. A message arrives and your mood shifts. A look from someone changes your posture. A delay in traffic turns the mind sharp and impatient. A small inconvenience becomes proof that the day is against you. You tell yourself you should not feel this. You tell yourself you should be stronger. But strength is not the absence of emotion. Strength is the ability to meet emotion without surrendering your command. This is the first thing to see clearly. The event does not seize you. Your judgment does. Between what happens and what you do, there is a space. You live in that space whether you recognize it or not. Most people ignore it. They allow the first impulse to speak for them. They allow the body's heat to decide their words. They call this honesty. They call it being real. They call it having no filter. It is not honesty. It is slavery to the first movement of the mind. To respond, not react, is not to become cold. It is to become governed. You are not trying to become a stone. You are trying to become a ruler of your own inner city. In that city, emotions will appear like weather. Some will be calm. Some will be violent. The question is not whether weather comes. The question is whether the city keeps its order. What is within your control is never the weather. It is how you interpret it and what you choose to do under it. When anger rises, it announces itself as certainty. It says, "This is wrong." When fear rises, it announces itself as prophecy. It says, "This will end badly." When desire rises, it announces itself as necessity. It says, "I need this now." When shame rises, it announces itself as identity. It says, "This is what I am." Each of these is a claim, not a fact. Emotional control begins when you stop treating these claims as commands. You must learn to hear emotion the way you hear a stranger shouting directions in the street. The stranger may be loud. The stranger may be confident. But volume is not truth. Confidence is not accuracy. The mind that reacts assumes the stranger must be followed. The mind that responds pauses and asks, "Is this direction sound?" This pause is the entire practice. It does not require a special room or a perfect life. It requires a willingness to not move immediately. Most people think the problem is emotion. It is not. Emotion is a signal. The problem is the instant agreement with the signal. You cannot prevent the first stir of feeling. The body responds. The mind generates impressions. This is natural. What is not natural is handing the steering wheel to the first impression. You have been trained to do this, not by reason, but by habit. From early on, you learn that feeling is urgent, that discomfort must be fixed immediately, that anger must be expressed, that fear must be obeyed, that desire must be satisfied. So your inner life became an emergency room, and every thought came in screaming. You live tense because your mind believes it must attend to every scream. But you are not required to treat every feeling as an order. A response begins with an admission. Something is happening in me. That is all. Not, "This person is disrespecting me." Not, "This is unbearable." Not, "I cannot stand this." Just, anger is here. Fear is here. Craving is here. This small shift changes everything. Because now you are observing the emotion instead of being the emotion. You are separating the self from the impression. A reaction collapses the two into one. I am angry, therefore I must act angry. I am afraid, therefore I must retreat. I desire, therefore I must take. A response keeps them distinct. Anger is present, but I will decide what is reasonable. Fear is present, but I will measure what is true. Desire is present, but I will choose what is necessary. You might think this is slow. You might think this is too restrained for modern life. Yet consider the alternative. The alternative is not speed, it is chaos. The reactive person is fast but inaccurate, fast but destructive, fast but regretting. The responding person is steady and therefore capable. Emotional control is not a performance you put on after you feel calm. It is what you practice precisely when you are not calm. The test is never in peace, the test is in friction. You will know the difference between response and reaction by how it feels in the body. Reaction feels like a push, a compulsion, a narrowing. The mind moves toward one goal: discharge, say something, do something, end the feeling, win the moment. Response feels like opening, like a breath, like space returning. The mind remembers it has options. It does not need to win the moment. It needs to do what is right. Notice that word right. Not pleasant, not satisfying, not validating. Right. This is the anchor. Emotional control is not for comfort. It is for virtue. It is for acting in accordance with reason. If your aim is comfort, you will justify any reaction that briefly relieves tension. You will lash out because it feels relieving. You will avoid because it feels safe. You will indulge because it feels soothing. But relief is not freedom. Relief is often just the payment you receive for surrendering your self-command. Reason asks a different question. Reason asks, what does this situation require of me if I am to live well? To live well does not mean to feel good all the time. It means to meet circumstances with a mind that stays its own. Now look at what provokes you: a rude comment, a perceived insult, someone ignoring you, a plan disrupted, a mistake, a loss. In each case, something external occurs. Then the mind adds something, a story about what it means. This should not happen. They should not treat me this way. I must not be seen like this. If I do not fix this now, I will lose control. These are judgments. They are not the event. The event is just sound waves, a facial expression, a delay, an error, an absence of approval. The mind's interpretation is what inflames. So the first tool is not suppression, it is correction. When the impression arrives, say to yourself quietly and plainly, this is an impression, not a certainty. Do not argue with the feeling. Do not try to defeat it. Do not try to make it go away. Just refuse to grant it authority. A person can be angry and still be fair. A person can be afraid and still be courageous. A person can be hurt and still be dignified. The feeling does not force the act, only your permission does. Most people live as if permission is automatic. They do not even notice when they give it. They call it losing control, as if control were stolen. But control is not stolen. It is surrendered. And what is surrendered can be reclaimed the moment you see it. Now understand something about anger. Anger is often a demand for the world to obey your preferences. You wanted respect. You wanted smoothness. You wanted your effort to be recognized. You wanted your plan to unfold. When reality refuses, anger appears as protest. But reality does not negotiate with protest. The world is not obligated to match your preferences. It will do what it does. People will behave as they do. Systems will fail. Bodies will age. Weather will change. Outcomes will vary. If you tie your inner peace to the compliance of the world, you will be forever disturbed. So anger at its root is not strength. It is fragile attachment. Emotional control begins when you see that your demand is the source of the heat. Ask yourself in the moment, what am I insisting must happen? Then ask, is it within my control? If it is not within your control, insistence is madness. It is the mind striking a wall and calling the wall unjust. This does not mean you become passive. It means you stop wasting your inner power on what cannot be commanded. You can address a problem without rage. You can correct a person without hatred. You can set boundaries without losing yourself. Response is not weakness, it is precision. Now fear. Fear is the mind imagining loss and treating imagination as certainty. Fear does not simply say, be careful. It says, this is dangerous, often without proof. It magnifies. It rushes you. It makes you abandon reason to seek immediate safety. But safety is not always the highest good. The highest good is a rational mind acting rightly. You must learn to meet fear as you meet a loud animal. You do not scream back. You do not run blindly. You become still. You assess. You choose. The question is not, how do I eliminate fear? The question is, how do I keep my judgment clear while fear is present? Fear says, if this happens, I will not endure it. Reason replies, we do not know what will happen, and endurance is precisely what belongs to us. Here is a hard truth. You can endure more than your fear tells you. Fear is rarely an accurate measure of capacity. It is a test of willingness. To respond, not react, is to let fear speak and still choose what is right. Now, desire. Desire is the emotion that pretends to be logic. It offers reasons. It makes promises. It says, once you have this, you will be settled. But the mind that chases this settles nowhere. Desire is not satisfied by having. It is satisfied by discipline. If you cannot say no to your impulses, you will never be free, no matter how many options you have. Desire will turn abundance into hunger. To respond instead of react in desire is to slow down the reaching hand. It is to ask, is this necessary? Is this aligned with reason? Or is this merely a craving for relief, for novelty, for escape? You do not have to hate pleasure. You only have to refuse to be governed by it. The person who responds can enjoy without being owned. The person who reacts becomes a servant to appetite. Now consider the common scene. Someone says something that touches a sore place in you. The body tightens. The mind moves fast. Words line up in your mouth ready to fire. At that instant, you believe you are defending yourself. But you are often defending an image of being respected, an image of being competent, an image of being in control. Ask yourself, what am I protecting right now? If the answer is your character, then protect it with virtue, not with aggression. If the answer is your ego, then see it for what it is, an attachment to appearances. Appearances are not within your control. Other people's perceptions are not within your control. Reputation is not within your control. Your intention is. Your choices are. Your conduct is. If you must speak, speak with accuracy. If you must correct, correct with restraint. If you must walk away without contempt. This is response. Reaction is the mind trying to control externals by force of emotion, but emotion does not control externals. It only disturbs internals. Now you may say, but my reactions are automatic. I do not choose them. Look more carefully. The first physical surge is automatic. The heat, the pulse, the tension. But the continuation is not automatic. The story you tell yourself is not automatic. The interpretation you feed is not automatic. The words you speak are not automatic. You may have practiced them so long they feel automatic. But habit is not fate. You are always one moment away from a different choice. The proof is simple. You do not react the same way in every context. If you are furious with a stranger, you might still restrain yourself in front of a child. If you are offended at work, you might still control your voice in front of someone you respect. This means you have capacity. It means you can choose. Your ability is not absent. It is just not consistently applied. So the task is not to gain a power you lack. It is to apply the power you already have. You apply it by training attention at the moment impressions arise. This is why the smallest moments matter. The minor delays, the slight inconveniences, the tiny frustrations. These are not beneath your practice. They are your practice. If you cannot respond to a small irritation, you will not suddenly respond well to a major insult. You train on what is easy so you can stand firm when it is hard. But understand, training does not mean forcing yourself to feel nothing. It means practicing the pause, practicing the space, practicing the reminder. This is not within my control. My judgment is. Each day offers you dozens of chances. You miss them because you are distracted. Your mind is elsewhere, living in anticipation or regret. When you live in anticipation, you react to imagined futures. When you live in regret, you react to imagined past. To respond, you must return to what is present. What is present is always manageable. It is the mind's additions that become unbearable. So in the moment of emotional surge, return to the simplest facts. What happened? What do I know for certain? What am I adding? This returns you from drama to reality. Now consider the phrase respond, don't react. Many people interpret it as a communication technique, a social skill. It is not. It is a way of living in accordance with reason. Response is the action that follows a clear judgment. Reaction is the action that follows a confused judgment. The difference is not the outward behavior. Two people may do the same thing. One may set a boundary calmly. Another may set the same boundary with rage. Outwardly similar, inwardly opposite. Only one is free. Freedom is not doing what you want. Freedom is being able to choose what is right even when you do not want to. This is why emotional control is a moral practice. It is not about appearing composed, it is about being governed by reason. Now you might ask, if I do not react, will I become passive? Will people take advantage? This fear is common. It comes from a misunderstanding. Reaction is not strength. Reaction is predictability. The reactive person is easy to manipulate. A simple insult can steer them. A simple praise can steer them. A simple delay can steer them. They are a puppet with many strings. The responding person is harder to move. Their actions do not depend on external provocation. They may be firm, they may be decisive, they may be unyielding. But they are unyielding for the right reasons, not because their emotions push them. To respond is to be more capable, not less. Now observe how often you believe you must express emotion to be true to yourself. You say, "This is how I feel." Yes, that is how you feel, but you are not your feelings. You are the faculty that judges. You are the capacity to choose. If you equate selfhood with emotion, then every emotion becomes an identity, and every identity becomes a prison. Instead, treat emotions as visitors. Some will arrive uninvited, some will linger, some will return often. Your task is not to lock the door, it is to keep the house in order. You can offer them a seat, you can listen, you can learn what they reveal about your attachments, but you do not hand them the keys. Now we must speak of one of the most subtle forms of reaction, internal reaction. You may not shout, you may not lash out, you may appear calm, yet inside you replay, you argue, you resent, you fantasize about revenge, you craft speeches you will never deliver. This is still reaction. It is simply delayed. It still steals your peace. To respond means you do not continue feeding the impression. You allow the first wave to pass without building a second wave with your thoughts. Often the second wave is worse than the first. The event is brief. The rumination lasts hours. So when you notice the mind replaying, do not scold yourself, just return. Is this within my control? The past is not within your control. Other people's choices are not within your control. Your current judgment is. Your current use of attention is. Then return attention to what you can do now, rightly. Sometimes that is speaking, sometimes that is working, sometimes that is resting, sometimes that is letting go. Letting go is not forgetting. It is ceasing to treat the matter as if it is happening now. What happened has happened. What remains is your character, and your character is always in your hands. Now, practical integration begins with a simple commitment. You will not act while the mind is unclear. This does not mean you delay everything. It means you do not let the first surge decide. If the matter is small, you can pause for one breath. One breath is often enough to reclaim command. If the matter is large, you may need longer. You can say calmly, "I will respond when I have thought." This is not weakness, this is integrity. You will be surprised how many conflicts dissolve when you refuse to fuel them. Not because the other person changes, but because you stop offering your inner stability as payment. The world feeds on reactive energy. It provokes it, rewards it, markets it. But you do not belong to the world's appetite. You belong to your reason. Now listen carefully. The goal is not to never feel overwhelmed. The goal is to notice overwhelm early. Most people notice too late when the words are already spoken. You must notice at the first sign, the tightening chest, the quickened breath, the inner rush. Treat these signs as a bell. A bell that says, an impression is here, guard the gate. You do not have to fight. You do not have to brace, just guard. Guarding means you slow. You simplify. You return to facts. You refuse dramatic interpretations. You choose the next action deliberately. This can be as simple as not replying immediately, not sending the message, not speaking the sharp line that is ready. Silence, when chosen by reason, is a form of strength. Now consider the deeper reason why you react. You want to escape discomfort. Reaction is often an attempt to eject the feeling. Anger ejects pain by turning it outward. Fear ejects uncertainty by turning it into avoidance. Desire ejects emptiness by filling it. Shame ejects vulnerability by hiding. But discomfort is not an enemy. Discomfort is part of being human. You do not need to escape it. You need to endure it with clarity. Endurance is not grim. It is simply acceptance of reality. If you can sit with discomfort for a few seconds without acting, you are already free. Because you are no longer compelled. This is why the smallest pause matters so much. It breaks the chain between feeling and action. It restores choice. Choice is where virtue lives. Virtue does not live in perfect circumstances. It lives in the moment you could react and you choose not to. Now, over time, as you practice this, something changes. Your mind becomes less startled by emotion. You learn its patterns. You recognize familiar provocations. You see the first spark. And because you see it early, you do not feed it. The spark remains a spark, not a fire. But do not make the mistake of thinking this means life becomes smooth. Life will still deliver what it delivers. The difference is that you do not add your own chaos to it. You handle what is yours. You release what is not. This is the core. What is within your control? Your judgments, your intentions, your choices, your actions. What is not within your control? Other people, events, outcomes, timing, the past, the body's initial sensations. And so emotional control is simply this. You stop trying to control what is not yours, and you devote your full strength to what is. When you do this, your emotions do not disappear. They become manageable. They become informative, not tyrannical. You become the one who decides. Now we end where we began. You are tired of being pulled around. Then stop granting power to what cannot be commanded. Stop acting as if the world owes you ease. Stop acting as if every feeling deserves expression. Let emotion arise, let it speak. Then return to the only authority that is truly yours. Reason. In every moment, you have a choice. Not a dramatic choice, a quiet one. React and be carried. Respond and remain. Peace comes from holding only what belongs to you and releasing what never did.